Heat Check is back for another off-season, looking at all the things Aussies are doing across the world of basketball. Bryce Cotton's hitting game winners again. We'll tell you where. And Aussie big returns from injury as well. And Michael Houben, you want to talk March Madness?
Yeah, Alex Condon, Rain Smith, Tyrese Proctor, there are so many big names to cover. It's going to be a big month ahead.
It is an exciting time for Aussies all around the world of Australian basketball. That is all coming up on Heat Check. Hello and welcome to Heat Check, our off-season look at everything that's happening around the world of Australian basketball. So many good Aussies doing great things right around the globe. So it's about time we check in and see who's doing what and where, because there is a lot happening at this time of year. Joel Peterson back with you alongside basketball.com.au analyst Michael Houben. Mick, great to see you, great to be back. There's a lot happening at this time of year.
There is. The NBL season just coming to a close now, but we know the basketball world never sleeps. There's always Aussies apparently playing somewhere at any given time, so we've got a lot to cover.
It feels like we've got more Aussies playing in more places. Is that just, is that sort of confirmation bias that we're thinking about it a little bit more? Or is that something you're seeing as well?
Yeah, maybe we've just been studying it a bit harder, but it feels like the numbers are rising. Everyone's loving to travel and getting some games in between the NBL seasons.
So we're going to have a look at who's doing what, and if we don't cover players today, we will get to them in the coming weeks because there is so much happening. Before we get too stuck into things, a couple of really good stories off the top. Probably just about the best story in Australian basketball, the real heart-warmer at the moment, is Harry Frolling's return to the court, of course. We know that he went through a life-threatening situation with his health after a one-punch attack. He is now back on the court in the NZNBL, and gee, didn't he burst back onto the scene?
Yeah, 786 days since he last played basketball, and how great to see him back and playing. He looked like his old self, step-back threes, moves in the post, taking guys off the dribble. It was classic Harry Froling, I should say. And just so good to see him, just from a human standpoint, to be playing, but to be playing so well, 32-12, really awesome. I hope we get to see it in the NBL level sometime again.
I mean, the confidence that would have given Harry. He's a confidence player. We know he was never short of it when he was out there on the court. But just to go through that period of uncertainty, maybe not know what you could deliver and come back to that must be huge for him.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really knew what to expect from him, but it goes to show just how natural his talents are. He's such a phenomenal shot maker, shooter, just a really special talent from his size.
We've seen him in a couple of NBL teams. Could he be on that radar, on that trajectory again?
I think absolutely. There's only so many talented bigs going around. They are at a premium, and someone that can shoot and have an offensive game like Harry can provide something for a lot of NBL teams.
He does something that not a lot of others do. So great to see Harry Froling back on the court. I like to go a little bit off kilter, and that's what I've done here. So we know that there's been a lot of NBL players go from our competition over to Puerto Rico in recent seasons. We had a buzzer beater from Milton Doyle last year, and the commentary of that was glorious. It hasn't taken us long to go down that road again, and of course it was Bryce Cotton, who had a red-hot season in the NBL that got us going, and some glorious commentary. Just have a listen to this.
Regresó restando los últimos 10 segundos. Guaynabo al ataque. Bryce Cotton en el intento de póngase de pie.
So Mick, I don't know what you think of that. High energy, I really like it, but the extended, and I'm not going to do it. I don't think my vocal cords are up to it, but the extended sort of goal is something I think we could work into the Australian repertoire.
Yeah, some tips for you, I think, Joel, there. I don't know if it quite stacks up with the Milton Doyle of last season, but pretty phenomenal as well.
There was something sort of guttural about the Milton Doyle that was really good fun. But, I mean, it's no shock to see Bryce hitting buzzer beaters, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty quiet game for Bryce's standards. 12 points. I'm sure he was just sort of getting his feet, under him over in Puerto Rico. But Bryce Cotton doing Bryce Cotton things down the stretch. I think I've seen that a million times before, just not in the Perth Wildcats red for once.
I feel like we'll keep talking about Bryce as well throughout these shows. Will Magnay's back on the court, which is great to see. Of course, toe injury late for the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. Didn't get back to the court as they faltered down the stretch, but his battle with injury, we know what he can do when he's at his best. and it's just great to see him back out there.
Yeah, great to see him back healthy again. We know he's had his injury issues in the past. So fantastic to see him back on the court, and it was a fantastic first game. Limited minutes, 16 minutes, but he had 10 points, 7 rebounds, a plus 11. I'm sure he's going to get more minutes as the season goes on and some bigger stat lines as well.
So he's playing for Mersin in Turkey. Another player in Turkey is Mitch Creek, who is playing for, I believe they're called Trabzonspor Medical Park, which is a magnificent name. I don't know where the medical park exactly fits into things, but he is dominating over there. 20 points a game. His team is 18 and zip when he sees the floor. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, top of the ladder. He's having a phenomenal season, over 21 points a game, over 6.5 rebounds a game. Top of the ladder, as we said. He's doing phenomenal things over there. And we know Mitch, seems like no matter what continent he plays on, seems to get it done.
And he plays, we saw him in China at the back end of last season. We know that he's played the NBL, he's played in America. He's one that, Puerto Rico as well. He's one that is pretty well travelled and seems to adapt to these situations quite well.
Yeah, he's an absolute professional no matter what continent he's on. He's travelled a whole bunch since he left Southeast Melbourne, and I think if he came back to the NBL, if a team wanted him, probably be one of the top locals back in the league.
Are you just alluding to something there? Or?
I'm not, but I would like to see it. He's a phenomenal player.
Yeah, he's so much fun, Mitch Creek, and such high energy. Any NBL team would be absolutely lucky to have him on their roster from a talent perspective. For our NBL fans out there, we thought it would be a little bit of a reminder just to have a look at who is where as we go through this off-season for most of our teams. Of course, there is still a championship series unfolding as we go to air. So a number of the leagues have plenty of NBL talent. Puerto Rico is one of them. We'll talk about some of the team-ups here, but this continues to be a real source of opportunity for NBL players.
I feel like some agents or some players were listening to us talk about Puerto Rico last season because it is such a fantastic place to play. Now, look, it's a fantastic Caribbean archipelago. I pulled that off the travel brochures. But on top of that, fantastic schedule, a light schedule, and the financial remuneration is fantastic as well. So there's a lot to like.
Keep your powder dry in Puerto Rico. We're going to need a little bit more of that soon. China is also loaded with NBL talent. One I was really pleased to see go there is Kouat Noi, who had such a great season with the Sydney Kings, their MVP, Sixth Man of the Year in the NBL. He's doing good things there too.
Yeah, he's doing fantastic stuff. And it's interesting to have a look at this list. Outside of Kouat Noi, pretty much everyone's either an elite guard or an elite big man. That's the sort of thing that's a real premium out there.
And then, of course, you can go elsewhere around Europe and all kinds of places where you can see a number of players. You see there, Japan, Kyron Galloway playing for the superbly named Iwate Big Bulls. Not just the Bulls, the Big Bulls, if you don't mind. And there's, we see a lot of talent here. Parker Jackson Cartwright doing his thing over in Lithuania as well. So the world is open to NBL players. That's what the message that we're hearing loud and clear.
Yeah, all over the place. I'm really excited to see PJC over in Lithuania. This is someone who, at his best, I think he's an MVP candidate in the NBL. But obviously a dysfunctional season in New Zealand. The stock's wavered a bit. It'll be interesting to see what he does here and how that translates into his next potential NBL deal. And
someone like Majuk Deng playing in the BAL, that's also sort of becoming a growing source of opportunity for Australian players, especially those with the South Sudanese heritage who have gone back to pursue some of those opportunities, like Majuk Deng is doing. He's at Alexandria in Egypt at the moment, but that's also becoming somewhere where we've seen Alex Higgins-Titcher go there and then come and do some really good things with the Cairns Taipans. That's a pretty fertile ground at the moment.
Yeah, it's a really fresh league, and I think we're going to see more players go season after season to that league. Obviously, so much African-Australian talent coming from our shores, so it makes a lot of sense for them to head over there.
Absolutely. So we said we're going to touch a little bit more on Puerto Rico because that has been a real, hotspot for NBL players in the last couple of seasons. We've seen so many go there and ply their trade. We're now seeing more than ever, and quite a few of them teaming up as well, but Puerto Rico more generally. So, of course, it's in the Caribbean. It's a territory of the United States, so you don't need anything but a US passport to go there. So, potentially makes it a little bit easier for some of those imports that we see from the US background. But, Mick, it's the home of Bacardi rum. So that's one thing that I know about it. And it's also the birthplace of the pina colada. So quite aside from the basketball opportunities, I'd say that's a pretty attractive combination.
Yeah, I'd say there's a myriad of reasons why guys are going to Puerto Rico. Basketball being one of them, the commentators being another.
Yes.
But just that lifestyle, fantastic, right?
Yes, I think the commentators are an underrated factor. That's certainly why I would go there. And it does throw some interesting combinations of players at us as well in terms of who has teamed up there. We've got a Tyrell Harrison, Sam Wardenberg, Milton Doyle, super NBL team doing some nice things at the moment. We've got Geordie Hunter and Nathan Sobey relinking their Southeast Melbourne connection as well. So not only is it giving opportunity to players in those teams, but they're able to sort of join forces and see what they can do together.
Yeah, I mean, that Southeast Melbourne combination is very familiar. I think we know what Geordie and Nathan can do together. But of course, that Wardenberg, Harrison, Milton Doyle combination, so interesting, almost a bit jarring to see as an NBL fan to see them on the court together. I'm sure an NBL team would love that combination back on their team as well.
So if you're watching those games, are you more interested in the guys that play together usually, or the guys that have come from different places? And okay, well, how does Sam Wardenberg and Milton Doyle, who seem sort of complementary players, how do they work together and then fit Tyrell Harrison in?
Yeah, I think that's the fun of it. It's almost like a fantasy situation brought to life in a way. And, you know, a guy like Wardenberg and Harrison, these guys could theoretically be an NBL front court together. So seeing how that fit works is really intriguing.
And then, of course, we know that Bryce Cotton is there as well. We saw him right off the top of the program. What does this mean? Because we haven't seen him play internationally for a little while now. What do you think this means for Bryce Cotton and his future?
Yeah, for quite a long time. I think it's 2018 when he went and played in Italy. Otherwise, he's just been hanging out in Australia. Quite unusual. It's not hard to put two and two together given his current free agency status and the speculation around that. There's probably two schools of thoughts you could almost have. One, maybe it's a prelude to him going and playing in Japan and leaving the NBL. Maybe he's seeing how comfortable he is playing overseas again. Perhaps also he's willing to sort of take the lower deal and stay in the NBL, a relative pay cut, let's say, and in order to top that up, you know, go and play in the off-season.
So it's going to be such a talking point. It's going to be such a point of intrigue, exactly what Bryce Cotton does. So keeping an eye on him playing for Mets over in Puerto Rico will be good, not only for the moments that he provides, but what it means for his future going forward. So that's a little bit of a look at what's happening internationally. Of course, that's the NBL tracker. There's a great tracker at basketball.com.au as well, where you can see everything that's happening in terms of the Australians playing overseas, not only from an NBL perspective, but broader basketball as well. So make sure you head there for all of that. A big part of what the Aussies are going to be doing in the next little while is March Madness. It gets underway in earnest in the next couple of days. We've got players playing for one seeds. We've got players playing throughout the tournament. The NIT is also a source of Australian players doing their thing. And one man who's going to be a huge part of it, playing for the number one seed Florida Gators, is Alex Condon, the big West Australian, and his stocks are just continuing to climb.
Yeah, look, he has been absolutely fantastic. Probably just starting to creep onto people's radars now. It's pretty undeniable what he's doing in the college scene right now. Really interesting story here. He's someone that started playing football, played water polo. Wasn't until a bit later until he got into the basketball, but went to the Centre of Excellence. Obviously went to the Florida Gators, which is a massive program, and now it's looking like basketball's his future.
There's probably some AFL teams that might be a little bit disappointed about that. That was a live possibility. Of course, he had ties to Collingwood through the Category B program, but it now appears that this has gone far enough that there's a, you know, and I know that you've said it, there's a legitimate sort of first round possibility for Alex Condon.
That's the way he's getting mocked right now. It is so interesting to see the way that he's sort of emerged in this draft crop. So, look, the way he was treating basketball, I think the thought on their mind was, you know, NBA or bust. You know, we want to go all or nothing, and if not, football's always there as a backup option. Now, if you're mocked in the first round, I think that's, you know, clear as day where his future's going to be. He's looking at that 20 to 30 range right now.
That's so exciting for Alex Condon, the Gators, and of course for Australian basketball. A team that will have plenty of eyes on it from right around the world is, of course, the Duke Blue Devils. They always do. But when you've got the prospective number one pick and a generational talent in Cooper Flagg, it means that there's going to be so many eyes. They've got Kaman Malawach as well. And of course, they have Aussie Tyrese Proctor, who's going to be a big part of a potential tourney run for them.
Yeah, I looked at Tyrese Proctor as a junior coming through the ranks here, and I got to say, he is one of the most talented and skilled offensive guards that I've ever seen come through in my time watching the junior ranks. Now, of course, playing for the Duke Blue Devils, you kind of have to contextualise his performance playing with Cooper Flagg, as you said. Concanipple is another projected lottery pick, Carmen Malawach. He's trying to find his place amongst this team, but he's the third leading scorer. Now, if you compare it to someone like Jack White, he is an NBA player, an NBL star. He obviously had a big career at Duke. Tyrese has played double the amount of minutes for Duke in one less season. That just goes to show what sort of an opportunity he's had.
What do you like about his game? What does Tyrese Proctor do that you think translates to that next level?
There is so much that he does. On the offensive end, he's a really complete package. He's a fantastic shooter, shooting over 40% this season. He's playing more of an off-ball role compared to all of these other guys on the team. He can also create out of pick and roll. He has those point guard qualities, and he's a fantastic defender as well.
So that's a couple of the Aussies. We've got Rain Smith, of course, who's also doing some really nice things, again, for a team that's going to feature highly in the tournament. And he's been really productive throughout the course of this college season.
Yeah, hands down, one of the best shooters in college basketball, shooting over 38% from three. But you have to factor in the volume. He's third in three-point makes every single conference combined. And on top of that, out of 312 shots that he attempted, 277 were from three-point range. So he is the definition of a specialist.
He's called Rain for a reason, and he's clearly showing it. What's his background like? Where has he sort of come from? What's led him to be at Louisville, and then sort of to the opportunity he finds himself in?
Yeah, Tassie background, came up, was a fantastic junior player, as you could imagine. He played 2 years at Charleston, or three rather, and then he's moved to Louisville along with the head coach. He's moved along with him for this final year. Now, this is his final year. He's going to go pro after this season, and it wouldn't surprise me if some NBA opportunities pop up. I know he's not a classic NBA athlete. He's a 6'1", 2 guard. He's not traditionally athletic, but this shooting goes a long way in any league.
We're seeing a lot of that and more of that with the transfer portal, aren't we? With players who are able to have an opportunity, maybe, really put themselves on the map and then swap out to a bigger school and put their name up in lights.
Yeah, it's almost like a professional setting at this point. There's all this money involved, and, the best thing to do is to play the market, and there is a lot out there for some of these players that produce at schools, smaller schools.
Okay, so let's talk about one. Aussie Rap, who was a South East Melbourne DP. Of course, he started the under-20 Nationals, hit the game winner last year in pretty fine style. He's got plenty of confidence, has the big man from very good stock. He's been playing at Portland. He is now entering the transfer portal, and you'd think there'd be some pretty significant eyes on what this young man can do.
Yeah, look, we've seen him as a junior, we've seen him at South East Melbourne, and something he does so well is shoot the ball at an incredibly high level for 6'10". He's got some playmaking on top of that as well, really well-rounded offensive player. Portland was a great first step, but I think we've got Power 5 schools knocking on his door at this point.
So that's hugely exciting, because he's produced, like he's gone, he's taken that opportunity, and he has been one who's stepped up and really made it his own.
Yeah, and look, Portland is a school that has had plenty of Aussies over the years. They've got Max McKinnon there as well right now. And this is kind of the method for a lot of these guys. Start at a slightly smaller program where you get that opportunity, you can showcase yourself, then jump in the portal, go get those offers.
So it's a changing landscape as far as the Aussies in college basketball at the moment, but that's sort of a taste of what is there for them. There's some great things happening with players in the States at the next level as well. Taran Armstrong's a name that we saw in the NBL absolutely light it up this season, who has also spent some time in college in the States, went to the Cairns Taipan, made it his own, another Tasmanian doing some really good things. And so sort of broadly has his horizons grown. He's now sharing a locker room with Steph Curry. That's all right going.
Yeah, some pretty good company, and what a reward for the season that he had at Cairns. We know he was phenomenal that season. Obviously, Golden State Warriors saw that. They love what they saw. They picked him up. He's playing in the G League right now. We know what the G League's like. It's not exactly a showcase for playmakers. Guys are trying to get their own a little bit. So his scoring numbers are modest, but he's playing the right way. He's efficient. I don't think Golden State will be too worried about that. They know what they picked him up for, and I think he'll get an opportunity at that level at some point in time.
You certainly hope so, because we know his court vision and just that tempo that he plays at. He is a steady head, a really calm head on young shoulders. So he could, the more playing time he gets, he could really grow into something pretty special.
Yeah, even before this breakout season, NBA teams always like the idea of players with positional size and fantastic feel for the game. We know that's Taran's strong suit.
Absolutely. So that's Taran Armstrong. That's the Aussies in the US covered. Let's finish a little bit closer to home with the NBL 1, which is only just around the corner. Of course, those teams are really into their preparation for things. One name who we saw in the NBL season is Kalalia Pepe, who unfortunately missed the end of the season with the Sydney Kings with a hamstring injury. As he continues his recovery, he's going to play with Knox in his comeback. So hometown boy coming back to Melbourne to play with the Knox Raiders. What are you excited about here?
It's just going to be so fun to see him at this level. I thought he had a phenomenal rookie season as a pro with the Sydney Kings. We saw him take on that enforcer role. We know he is as strong as anybody in the league already in his youth. to get him down in NBL 1, I worry for these opposition front courts trying to have to deal with the weight that he's going to throw around. And also, he's actually really skilled, and so being able to see a bit more of the three ball, a bit more of the post game, that'll be really exciting.
Who are you more worried for, the opposing defences in the NBL 1 competition, or the gyms in the Knox area trying to contain this man in the strong room?
I don't know if they'll fit him in the door. He is so big and strong, but yeah, mainly those front court competitors, I think.
And the NBL 1 Central is absolutely loaded. There is one team in particular, the Forestville Eagles, who are coming off a pretty special season. They've doubled down and they've gone and got the sharpshooter from the 36ers, DJ Vasiljevic.
It's pretty incredible that we get DJ in the NBL 1 every off-season. It seems to be the trend lately. And this guy is a world-class shooter. I'm going to pencil him down for some 40 pieces already.
40, anything greater than that?
Well, I'll call for him to get a 50. Let's see if we can get 50.
All right, I like that. I like that. Let's go bold. Let's go hard early, and we'll just start to wind things back a little bit later as we go. So that's episode 1 of Heat Check in the books. There is so much good stuff happening. March Madness just around the corner, of course. The NBL season is wrapping up. That means there's more and more opportunities abroad, and we're going to cover it for you all as we go throughout the off-season. Mick, great to see you. Great work as always. How many screens are you going to be running across the course of the weekend? More than Mission Control?
More than Mission Control. There's going to be heaps.
I like it. I like it. You've got eyes on everything. Michael Houben with you. Thanks for your company. We're back with you on Heat Check very soon.